wondered what you were desperately searching for. Shit, where is it?
I was editing at the same time, so I kept coming back onto it to see the countdown. And then I'd be like, right, I need to get a prop in a minute. And then go back. And then I was like, shit, I bet we're like 1 second away. And we were 1 second away from airing. And I was like,
Welcome back to another episode of the Deductionist podcast, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you're all keeping well, except for that one person that hit the thumbs down at the 14-second mark. You know, that's for you right there. No, I'm kidding. You're entitled to your opinion, unless your opinion was thumbs down, in which case you're wrong. So that's the wrong opinion.
We'll find you. It's fine. We'll get your address. And you'll be sorry.
You'll be sorry. You'll get Adam shaking your props at you. So,
my props.
Since last time we played around with ChatGPT, it's gotten insanely popular, and they've started like adding a limit or a number of the amount of people that can be active on the ChatGPT servers.
Really? They're crashing it.
Yeah, at any one time. There's too many people on it. So,
oh my.
Doing what the 21st century does in these types of scenarios, I went off searching for another one.
Of course.
Just, fuck you. That's it. I'm off to find something else. That's what's happened. Yeah. So I found this, and I asked it, in the spirit of last time, to write me a murder riddle based on a piece of fruit. Because you broke it last time with the piece of fruit.
You couldn't do a piece of fruit.
Are you ready for this? Here's the riddle. Right? Here's the riddle. I put in write me a murder riddle based on a piece of fruit, and this is the riddle that it sent back. What piece of forbidden fruit was the cause of a murder most foul? One sunny day in a small village, a body was found in the town square. It appeared to be that of a local farmer, lying in a pool of his own blood. The townsfolk were at a loss as to who could have committed such a heinous crime, until one brave soul noted a single piece of forbidden fruit lying at the farmer's feet. The fruit was a strange one, a lemon, but it was split in two halves, as if someone had taken a bite from it. This strange evidence was enough to implicate the townsfolk's worst enemy, a wolf that had been terrorizing the village for months. The wolf was quickly apprehended and put on trial for the murder. The prosecution argued that the wolf had bitten into the lemon with his sharp teeth and threw it into the farmer in a fit of rage. The jury agreed, and the wolf was sentenced to death. What piece of forbidden fruit was the cause of a murder most foul? Now,
that is brilliant. As a murder, as a story, I think that's absolutely fantastic. That's like a classic children's book mixed with murder.
If it was going to be a children's book, it would be the book that Sean Locke wrote. The Tiger Who Went for a Pint. That would be that one. But I can't help but think that the AI in this device, whatever it is, doesn't really understand what a riddle is.
Yeah, it's kind of told us the whole thing.
I mean, I'm very happy about the story. I think the story's great. The story's solid. It goes from a very kind of period murder mystery to all of a sudden being supernatural, and people can talk to wolves and put them on trial. What the fuck's all that about?
Throw lemons, the main attack of a wolf, I would have thought, my go-to wouldn't have been a lemon. Wouldn't have been throwing fruit. Don't encounter a wolf, it may throw fruit at you. But I like it. I like the twist and the angle they've got going on there.
Yeah, I've so many things wrong with that. How is the wolf going to grab the lemon if it's not got thumbs?
Is that the riddle?
I don't know.
Riddles within the riddle. Oh my God, it's Inception. This is a genius riddle.
All
This
I
is
know
whatever he
is,
found has actually multi-layered the whole thing with riddles. It's
all I
beyond
know,
our comprehension.
yeah, absolutely, mate.
Write
I
that
fucking
thing
love
down,
it.
though. That is gold dust. That is. That's incredible. Honestly, I reckon you could sell that as a
Someone get Ryan
legitimate.
Johnson on the phone immediately.
Yeah, lemon teeth. Oh, it had a title, didn't it?
What? What had the title?
Did it have a title? The case of.
Yeah, well, it was just an opening sentence. What piece of fruit was the cause of a murder most foul?
That's a good title.
I mean, I mean,
I
it's
really
it's
like
a
it.
title.
Yeah.
It's
That's a
certainly
very
a
kind of
title.
title. A piece of fruit.
I like the way it's setting it up. A farmer,
Mm.
pool of his own blood, a rogue lemon. Naturally,
What the hell?
naturally it's got to be the wolves. It's got to be the wolves, Moriarty. No, seriously, it's got to be the wolves. I'm telling you, but.
The bloody wolves. And what did it call it? The wolf was the town's
Yeah, the
natural
townsfolk's worst enemy.
because of his fruit throwing abilities.
Yeah, like what? What kind of condiment king world are these people living? There is a loose segue into today's content as well. The battle between Batman and Sherlock Holmes, and that's the reason for this kind of setup. And I wasn't cramming condiment king in there as an obvious segue.
But it helps. It helps. It's a nice little overflow into main subject there. I mean, you could potentially go anywhere with a lemon fruit throwing wolf. There's a lot of sort of brainstorming you could do there. You could end up in any pond.
Do you want to hear the first question I asked it today?
Go on then.
Write me a piece of erotic fiction based on Sherlock Holmes.
You typed Sherlockian.
I did ask it if it would if it would make some Sherotica for me. Do you want to hear what it wrote?
Yeah. Oh my God. Yes, I do. Hold on. Let me get the tissues and
Well,
Nivea.
sorry, I can't fulfill this request. I refuse requests related to violence, sexuality, and self-harm. Please try again with a different request.
Oh, we need to go tamer. A love story between
Yeah.
Sherlock and Watson. That borders into adult territory.
Absolutely, absolutely, right.
Don't be crass.
So then, to the kind of focus of the session, dude, I'm going to pop you on the spot right from the get go.
Pop my spot.
In a
Oh.
in a world where there are battles, Mortal Kombat style, if you will, of detectives. There is Sean Spencer in one corner, Patrick Jane over here, Cal Lightman over here, Poirot versus Dupin, and then the summit of them all is Batman, who was billed as the world's greatest detective, and Sherlock Holmes. Who's better?
Well, Sherlock Holmes.
That's the end of the podcast, ladies and gents. Take care.
Thank you very much.
Cheers,
Guys.
goodbye. Bye. No.
Put it there. We sorted it out.
Oh, do you know what? I've only just seen that we've actually got some comments as well. We'll get to those. We'll get to those in a tickle. But yeah, so Sherlock is the better one for you. Why?
I would say because in terms of capabilities, I would say it was Sherlock. Batman is some of his deductions and his sort of ingenuity is based off the skills of Sherlock. So I heard anyway. Bob Kane took a lot of inspiration from him. So I would go up to the better, as it were, with deductive ability wise, and what we're talking about, I would say it would be Sherlock Holmes. If you're talking Mortal Kombat, sort of like they're versus each other.
Yeah, Batman's got there in the bag.
Yeah.
No question.
Sherlock immediately discovered he was Bruce Wayne. Probably would have gone undercover as Alfred, and then poisoned his water in the morning or something like that.
Well, it raises an interesting point, right? What qualifies a detective? Speaking purely on a fictional basis, right? On a fictional basis, because there are qualifications that exist for that particular role in the real world.
Yeah. I suppose in a fictional sense, where you'd be looking at arch enemies, string of murders surrounding them, that kind of thing. That's sort of their natural hobby and thing to do. I mean, Sherlock is sort of like the quintessential detective, isn't he? Lives with all his sort of like his puzzles and all his hobbies all in one room, looking out over London. He's got a good sort of viewpoint of the area he sort of surveys the most, and sort of gets up his ears to the wall to, and yeah, he's got his sidekick. He's got he's got all these sort of stereotypical things a detective would need in the fictional world. And I suppose in a way, if you're looking at Batman, he's kind of got those on a more gadgety modern level.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? Where do you split it down? Are you a detective if you can get a computer to do it for you? Or are you a detective if you have to figure these types of things out for yourself? And I should point out as well, I'm not that any people from a comics base will end up watching this, but if you do, we like comics, we read comics. We are by no means as educated on comic history and comic lore as most of the people that exist on YouTube or in this domain, right?
Yeah, I imagine we'll get taken down in some sort of video somewhere saying where we got Batman wrong, why he's such and such, why.
I would love it if secretly that lady from before that tried to tear me a new one over the Johnny Depp case, she lays it down in terms of where we've got Batman wrong. She ropes you into it this time, you know.
Get that scruffy looking thing from under the stairs.
It would have been
I know what a credible source is, and this is what a credible source is.
That Batman is the greatest detective of all time.
I got credible sauce down my top.
I put credible sauce on my food earlier.
We should send back a list of incredible sauces. We have some great ones you can try. You silly bint.
That's it. So let's just a couple of the comments. League 555, hi, a deductionist beginner. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for stopping by. And the man, the myth, the trouser snake that is Craig Galvin.
Craig trouser snake.
Who says that the chat function only refused to write Sherotica because it was sick of Adam repeatedly asking.
I've been blocked, kicked out. That's why half of these AI things keep shutting down. It's just me on there in different accounts. Come on.
But, so I had to do a little bit of research on this, and as it turns out, Holmes is actually a character in DC Comics. He's had interactions. He's had interactions with a number of characters over the years. Holmes made his first appearance in the DC universe in Flash Comics number 69, published way back in 1946. Right, 1946. This is what we saw way back then. It was him figuring out who Hawkman was. Right.
What? I mean, that's incredible that the crossovers were beginning then.
Yeah. No guesswork, pure deduction. In the cup of your...
Yeah. Like that. No way. Brilliant.
It's cool, isn't it?
I love it. I've seen him, known him as a comic book character. He was in, was it Deadpool Kills the Multiverse? I'm sure he's in one.
Deadpool Illustrated.
Is it Deadpool illustrated?
Illustrated, yeah.
Where they kind of like, without spoiling it, but he encounters him and they kind of go at each other at the end, and there's only one winner that comes out of that.
There is. It was on the cover of one of the versions of it. It was Deadpool with a magnifying glass at the top of Sherlock's head, setting his deerstalker on fire. With the 1946 comic though, for Flash Comics number 69, Holmes never actually gave his name. But there were the likeness in terms of the dressing gown, the pipes, the way that he smoked, the deductions and the observations that he made.
Aren't they? Yeah. Very. It sounds very, inclined as to who he is. Was it at the time? Was Sherlock copyrighted?
1946. 1946. I don't know off the top of my head on that one because I don't know the dates surrounding the copyright law. I know the Holmes Foundation and the people at the Undershore, they keep track of that kind of stuff religiously. So I don't know. I'm estimating because there were a couple of battles regarding copyright stuff in the late 60s as well. So I would presume that's why they didn't name him.
Right.
Yeah. But that's the thing, right? Because I saw it written somewhere. It was a screen grab. From it was a comic cell. I've no idea what DC comic, no idea what kind of number or where it was or anything like that. But it was kind of like Batman's vital statistics in that he's got 190 IQ, speaks all of these languages, trained to mastery status and this many martial arts, etc., etc., etc. But uses his many resources that exist in not just the people in his life, namely Alfred and whatnot. Alfred, I think, would be the Mrs. Hudson of. I was going to say, there seems
to be, actually, if you think about it, a lot of parallels between Sherlock Holmes and the character of Batman, just in terms of like.
I was thinking about that. I was thinking about that as well. Like the silhouette of Holmes, which we were the best way to do it. So Holmes at the side holding his pipe this way round.
Yeah.
As soon as you get the shadow with the cowl, you know exactly what you're dealing with that way around. Yeah. The fact that it's straight horns rather than bent ones for the devil.
Yeah.
That happens a lot. Robin, Watson, Alfred, Hudson. Yeah. I don't quite know what the parallel would be for the Batmobile. But I'll
be the taxi.
Taxi. Fuck it, why not?
Who knows? Knows all the streets and whatnot.
But I thought that the gadgets were a kind of good likeness for Holmes's mental faculties in terms of the memory palace and all of the data he kept in here and in his files at home. Way around, and when I say home, that's just the way I refer to 221B. Like when I go to the museum in London, the kind of nerd in me goes, I'm just going to pop home for a minute. I'm just going to pop home. And Maddie's like, oh God, you're a dick. You're a dick.
Going in again. I suppose that's like the Batcave, though, isn't it?
Batcave. 221B
keeps up. The Wayne Manor is sort of kept in check by Alfred. Mrs. Hudson keeps the apartment.
Master of disguise.
The Rock House, thus the Batcave. Exactly, yeah. Keeps all these things in there, all the stuff that goes on. I suppose like the fridge, where he keeps sort of kind of all his things that he shouldn't be keeping in there because it'd get him in trouble with the law. So he's very similar to Batman's sort of evidence chamber and what have you.
Exactly, sir. Exactly. Craig pointing out that Robin would have a Watson equivalent. Yeah, absolutely.
Lestrade and Jim Gordon.
Commissioner Gordon, Lestrade, Commissioner Gordon. Oh God, what's her name? Is it Barbara Gordon?
Barbara Gordon, the daughter.
Barbara Gordon. Well, that's the thing. I can't delineate Selina Kyle and Barbara Gordon to Irene Adler, because Barbara Gordon's got the kind of good streak where she does occasional kind of anti-heroine things as
Yeah.
Batgirl, but Selena Kyle's the epitome of someone who aims to misbehave, right?
Yeah.
Who is the kind of influencer over men and the elite, and bending people to her will, and being smarter than the guys that she gets involved with, you know.
Yeah.
So there is an incredible likeness from there.
Yeah. Pure. I suppose would the Riddler be Moriarty?
Well, I think Joker would be Moriarty.
Yeah, that's a point. Yeah, very other side
Yeah,
of
he's,
the
he's
coin.
if Batman was that kind of character that has his morals intact, doesn't kill, doesn't this, doesn't this, doesn't
Yeah.
this, and that's definitive. And the Joker being, well, I'm just going to kill for the sake of it. I'm going to do this because I'm just like a dog chasing cars. I wouldn't know what to do with one if I got it. Yeah, that way around.
Yeah.
That was my terrible Heath Ledger, by the way. That was what that was.
Would Riddler be Charles Augustus?
Charles Augustus Milverton. Yeah,
Possibly.
it's a good likeness.
Mind you, the Milvertons sort of like his illustrations look a little bit like Penguin.
They do. They
Wild.
do. The kind of short status.
Yeah, roundness.
Yeah.
Little peaky nose.
But I think Milverton would be more the Riddler anyway, because Riddler was more fond of mind games and puzzles that led to darkness and evil deeds and all of this kind of thing. Milverton very much the same in terms of his blackmailing status. He kept information on everybody that led to deeds. That way around. But this isn't an allegory over the likeness between the Sherlock and Batman stories. This is the classification of.
He's got your number.
This is the classification of one detective gets into a fight with another one over the power of their brains. Who would win?
I would totally be Sherlock.
I think so. I think he has to have it.
Yeah, I think you've already figured out, obviously, like, with Batman having split personalities, I think he would have found a way to exploit that, sort of get under his skin a little bit, that kind of thing. I think there's too many things for Sherlock to sort of discover about Batman, while Sherlock is very sort of like got it all on the table in terms of who and what he is in those regards.
Well,
but what do you think?
Well, this is my opinion as well. This is Batman's opinion that I'm about to give you from my extensive 23-minute level research. And it was 23 minutes. That's it. That's all I did. It's 23 minutes.
Who would win?
So Batman was actually outdone by Sherlock Holmes himself in Detective Comics number 572 in 1987. Yeah,
it's just already taken place.
That's it. The issue also featured Slam Bradley, who appeared in the premiere issue of the title, and it was to commemorate 50 years of Detective Comics. So it prompted the whole kind of crossover tribute this kind of way, in that it's Detective Comics, it's DC, it's Detective Comics. They need to pit these kind of people together. So Batman and Robin have partnered with the Elongated Man. And they are tracking down the great-grandson of Sherlock's iconic arch nemesis, Professor James Moriarty.
Say that again!
I will. They're tracking down the great-grandson of Professor James Moriarty. So the adventure concludes, and an old man wearing a deerstalker hat with a pipe approached the Dark Knight, revealing himself to be Sherlock Holmes. While Batman and his friends are investigating the case, Sherlock had been helping things move along secretly in the background. Right? And so whereas nobody, it's kind of accepted that nobody can look at Batman and figure out that it's Bruce Wayne, or nobody can look at Clark Kent and figure out that he's Superman because of the glasses and whatnot. That's kind of an accepted idea within that kind of space, right?
Not a question.
Yeah, and yet there is where are we? So there is this. I think not. A touch of Baritsu should put you in your place. Batman using Sherlock Holmes's fighting style. Right? Thanks for your help, sir. Here, my God.
With the mask on.
But then then it actually finishes up this way around, right? So you've got the whole scene.
Oh no.
Where Sherlock actually reveals that I knew who you were all along. I sent a message to Commissioner Gordon to actually help out everything that was involved. And I know all of this information. You guys were actually 2 steps behind everything all the time, being guided by me in the background, just so I could help you along, kind of as an afterthought.
Yeah, that's totally his style, isn't it? That's clearly sort of distinguished who is the better detective.
Fucking this guy.
And like you're saying, like with disguises and sort of blending in, like Batman's disguise as the persona Batman uses the knife, the shadow, the sort of aesthetic of Gotham City to sort of make his way around and appear. But usually, if he's in the area, they know it's Batman there. While Sherlock, I imagine, he just blends in night or day under disguise of whatever, doesn't he? You don't really know he's there until whatever's happened has happened. He's not there to make an outburst. He's sort of there to sort of do what he needs to do. You won't know that he's been in and out. Giggity.
Exactly. No, I completely agree, mate. I completely agree. And the argument, I mean, it's not really an argument, is it? It's opinions based on fictional characters.
It's legit. It's legit.
No. I'm going to say his name 3 times in the mirror so he comes back. But right, you could make the argument that it's 2 very different styles of detection, in that Holmes was the better detective for the period, and Batman, being in the 20th and indeed the 21st century, has to be the detective for this period. You know, in that criminals nowadays in comics and everything like that are far more advanced than they were in stories of the period from way back when in the 1890s, this way around. So
Yeah, true.
you make that argument either way. But have you seen Gotham by Gaslight?
Not yet.
Gotham.
But I've heard things.
It's DC animation at its finest, right? It's a really, really good film. Really good film. And I'm not just saying that, but this is when it steps into my opinion as well, because I didn't know about this kind of Sherlock popping up in the DC comics, but from the 80s. But I'd watched I've as we talk about frequently, right? When new DC or comics related stuff come out, we have a chat about it. We watch it, you know. We talk. We get involved that way around. And so when that came out, I watched it, and it's basically Batman in and around the solving of the Jack Ripper murders in Whitechapel, right?
No.
Yeah. But Batman himself quotes smarter detectives at the time and directly quotes Sherlock Holmes. In terms of the elimination of the impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, must be the truth. And my favourite, you know, the emotional qualities being antagonistic to clear reasoning, you know.
Yeah.
So that's 2 for 1. That's 2 for 1.
Exactly.
And
that just goes to show, sort of like with putting Batman in the universe of, well, not, I suppose it wasn't the universe of Sherlock, but in the kind of era of Sherlock and that kind of world he was from, you still are overshadowed by the greatest
Right.
detective. It's kind of like Edgar Allan Poe and how much he's quoted in films which are directly inspired by him. You can't really sort of shift sort of even someone as iconic as Batman into that world without sort of paying reference to what inspired and what came before him, that kind of thing. It's one of them questions where it's like chicken or the egg. Like,
It
would
is a chicken
Batman
and
have,
it is a chicken and the egg thing. It
would
is.
Batman have been around if Sherlock Holmes hadn't been created? If Conan Doyle had never written that, would he have never Bob Kane been inspired to then write Batman the way Batman was written? Because those parallels are very obvious.
Come on.
And I know we're
Right.
not going down that route, but it's
Well,
like,
we can keep going down that route. We can keep going
it's
down
one
the
of the
route.
one exists because the other exists, or is it a case of like would have existed anyway, regardless of the other? But it's mad to think maybe it would have just been a completely different Batman, might have been a completely different concept without the history of Sherlock Holmes being behind it.
Well, even down to their kind of anti-hero morals this way around. There's, in a few of the stories, Holmes captures the criminals and then lets them go.
Yeah.
Just for the sake of knowing what happened, so he can kind of qualify whether it's a rational thing. I think there was a case of identity this way around. There was a few others, but like take Batman for example, taking the law into his own hands as the vigilante and imposing his own justice to the point where he gets in with the police because he's doing things that they can't. Hello, that's how Holmesian is that?
Yeah, too right. I just saw in the comments as well. Craig's put Alfred is like a father figure, so elements of Morland. But who would you class as Mycroft?
Well, that's the thing. Morland was purely a creation of Elementary, the TV
Yeah.
show. That's not to say that we can't draw likenesses from there, because we can. That is a good likeness.
Yeah.
But if
Who would Mycroft? That's
yeah,
an interesting one. He's being Sherlock's brother,
yeah.
like the character. I can't. That's a tough one. That is. Who would you reckon he would be? What would you
Well,
character would you like?
I would look to I would look to other members of the Justice League, because Mycroft was the smarter brother that refused to get involved based on his energy and his engagement and his willingness to do things, right? So Batman very much the kind of lone wolf, not to try and bring Chuck Norris into this as well, but Batman very much the kind of lone wolf. So you could look at other areas to see where there are people that provide insights that Batman doesn't have, in order to keep him moving forwards, or to provide insights that Batman can't have because he only sees the world in a certain light. So there have been. I mean, I take for example his relationship with Superman. This way around, it was explored to the best of knowledge that I have on the topic, best in the Batfleck version of Batman. I don't know if it's been written in the comics this way around, but like his references saying Superman's more human than me. He's lived a better life than me. He's done this. He's done this. He's done this. It's the acknowledgement that people can be better than you, but you still have a bigger impact, right?
Yeah.
That's the same. Sherlock has to acknowledge that Mycroft is smarter because he is.
Yeah.
Right, but Sherlock has the impact because Sherlock's willing to, move and do things and get off his arse.
Yeah. Was Mycroft obese?
He wasn't as obese as the Mark Gatiss version in The Abominable Bride.
Well, yeah, my God.
He was robust. He was I think the kind of Victorian lingo is portly. He was portly.
Portly.
Yeah,
Okay.
he was a
Yeah.
bigger gentleman this way around. Um, I also I also asked Chat this kind of it's called Chat Sonic. I asked Chat Sonic
Okay.
who is the better detective, Batman or Sherlock Holmes, and it's given arguably the most diplomatic answer I've ever heard. It's like it's trying to actively stop two people from arguing just to try and calm down. So it really
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
is the answer. There is no definitive answer to who is the better detective between Batman and Sherlock Holmes. Both heroes have different skills and abilities that make them two of the greatest detectives in fictional history. Fair. Sherlock Holmes, known for his analytical skills and logical deductions, making him the preeminent detective of the Victorian era, a master of deduction, often solving cases simply by observing the smallest of details. He also has an encyclopedic knowledge of chemistry and forensic science, which gives him a huge advantage in solving criminal cases. Batman, on the other hand, is a master of modern detective work. He has a vast network of resources, so money buys you that. Is that really the is that a detective skill? You know, including the Batmobile, the Batcomputer, and his contacts throughout Gotham. Businessmen and women have a vast array of resources. I have quite a lot of resources I've employed over the years. I'm by no means fucking Batman. That's not a good sentence. I've never been fucking Batman. I am by.
No AI. Don't answer that. What would the child look like between?
I know exactly what it would be. It would be a profile pic that I've got because it's a guy with the Batman cowl on, but got a beard as well. That's exactly what the kid would look like.
The baby's boss.
Where are we? So contacts throughout Gotham that allow him to investigate cases quickly and efficiently. He also has extensive martial arts training, and his ability to blend into the shadows make him a master of undercover work. That's fair. The ability to blend in makes him a master of undercover work. That is fair. Both Batman and Sherlock Holmes are iconic characters beloved by millions of fans, and ultimately it can be said that they are both equally talented as detectives.
Fair. I mean, it's very, very straight-laced answer, isn't it? Sort of like, we won't really sort of acknowledge who would actually, because someone has to be the better.
Well, for me, and like again, before I offend anyone who is a deep comic lover and has information that I don't, I'm operating off reading. I don't know, like maybe 60 active Batman comics in my life and watching the films. That's where I'm coming at from this knowledge, and I realise that there are probably I don't know, like tens of thousands of comics that way around. They're empty. That they kind of open the stories out. But let me create a likeness. If you had access to AI software and somebody presented you with a problem and you like if somebody told you that 2 plus 2 is actually 12, right? And you went, teach me how 2 plus 2 is actually 12, and it did that for you. Is that you
Yeah.
doing it, or is that you knowing how to find the answer?
That'd just be me knowing how to find the answer.
That's the thing.
Essentially.
Whereas Sherlock, again, you could argue that he didn't have the tech, etc., etc. But Sherlock was able to make these kinds of connections with this and the access to the information that existed in literal form. You would have to know what book to look at or what kind of index to pull out or what crime was committed where or what paper said this, etc., etc. And Batman probably does as well, probably has a hive of knowledge like that.
Yeah. And I suppose even Sherlock was known for his abundance of knowledge and intelligence, whilst Batman, well, Bruce Wayne, if you just look at Bruce Wayne, his
Yeah,
resource. were more funded
Yeah.
than anything. He was doing more financial resources and more tech resourceful rather than actual, want his sort of knowledge per se. His knowledge was sort of, astounding, but it by no means sort of like, it was greatly aided by the money. As all
That's
the
the thing.
jokes sort of about Batman, don't they? They say he's like, it's just, superpowers money.
That's the thing. That's the thing.
His
Well, again,
change.
Batfleck said that, didn't he? What's your superpower? I'm rich.
Yeah.
Right? He said that.
Yeah.
He said it.
Even he can argue it.
Exactly. Exactly. So, when the Batman came out, the Robin, that's a Freudian slip, isn't it? The Robert Pattinson one. It was billed as like earlier on in his career, so he could focus on being more the detective, right?
Yeah.
But there wasn't that much detection happening, right? He solved puzzles, and I think that's the difference. He solved the puzzles of the Riddler. There was that scene where he was making all of the connections with the photos on the ground and the drawings and all of this kind of thing, the shot above, to give him an excuse to sit there shirtless.
Yeah.
Which it was, let's face it.
Yeah, it pretty much was.
Yeah.
It was for the shot.
Of course it was, right? It goes on. I believe me, if somebody was paying me to star in a movie and they were like, here is your excuse to get in a ridiculous shape. All right, yeah, I'm going to do that. Ben, you're in a library in the middle of Swindon. Why don't you have a shirt on?
I do not know.
I think this should answer your question. Right. So if we were quite reductionistic about the argument, it could boil down to, well, they are of two different times.
Yeah.
They are of two different times. But with the incarnations, particularly Elementary and BBC Sherlock, bringing them forward into the 21st century, and indeed Miss Sherlock, the Japanese version as well, was a Sherlock Holmes set currently. There was use of search engines, and there was use of Google and the internet for research and whatnot, but it was all still very proactive, as in doing the stuff yourself, developing the knowledge yourself, putting the dots together yourself. This way round, right? Benedict would get angry, shout at John, and do it all in his head. Johnny Lee Miller would put all of his photos on the floor or on the wall, pick some locks and shout at the turtle, and then go and solve the puzzle as well. Miss Sherlock would very much do the same. She would accost the I think it was Watterson. Was the kind of what I think it's been ages since I've watched it, and I'm not 100% sure, but it was like a Japanese approximation of the surname Watson.
Right. Okay.
I mean, it's a great series. Don't get me wrong; it's a fucking brilliant series, and it's extra specially gutting that the Miss Sherlock version died. The actress died.
Yeah.
As to why they didn't make more.
Did they finish that before she passed away? Or?
Well, they finished the first season, and then she passed away after the second. But even in the modern incarnations of Sherlock, he's still active. He's still doing the work. Still making the connections, still doing the detection. But with Batman, heavily aided by technology to do the groundwork for him.
Yeah.
Heavily aided.
Yeah,
and that's. I mean, do not get me wrong. If I had access to the technology that he did, I would use the bejesus out of that technology.
I suppose the question is, like, if you swapped roles of Sherlock and Batman, like you put Sherlock in that era with all that technology, would he use that instead of using up here as much? Would he think up here to, I'll use it, makes sense to, work smarter, not harder, that kind of look at it.
That's the thing. As one of the guys points out in the chat, and when Watson asks Johnny Lee Miller why did he ask Google, he was like, well, not everything is deducible.
Yeah.
right? Because if you're trying to make a deduction on information you don't have, you can't make it. Right?
Yeah.
You need to find the information out. I used to illustrate this puzzle when I with my students, when I get them to listen to 2, 3, 4 pieces of information at the same time. So when you're trying to connect dots between data that you don't have, you can use Google to be able to do that. So like the whole the kind of ground floor exercise that I would do is I would put on like a lecture or something, right? A TED talk, something like
Yeah.
that. And over the top of it, I would read some poetry or a short story or a snippet from a film or something like that. So
Yeah.
that when they are making connected dots, they have a series of buzzwords that belong to me. And the task was tell me precisely what it is that I am going on about. What, if it's a story, what page, yada yada yada.
Okay.
I can't do that. I can't do that. Use Google as your respective memory palace in terms of the information you don't have yet. Bang the buzzwords in, hit search, see what comes back, and find the piece that makes the most connections for you. Inductive reasoning right there. Until you build up the knowledge banks, that's the thing. When Sherlock would use the tech, if he used it once or twice, the information would be actively stored, so we wouldn't have to keep going back, right? And there we're getting into Socrates' opinion on writing, but that's a whole other thing. That's a whole other
Great.
thing.
Into this now. It's going to be
Oh God,
Sherlock versus
Socrates,
Batman.
dude.
Of
Oh,
Socrates.
well, the whole kind of
Oh,
thing
no.
in a nutshell. The whole now that I've said it, the whole kind of thing in a nutshell was we write things down so that we don't have to remember. So it imbues us with a kind of complacency to engaging our own brains. Whereas when we Google something, it's the same thing. We might get to the answer, and then because Google is always there, if the question ever
Yeah.
pops up again in the future, there's that same kind of complacency. So we never have to remember it that way around, which is why tech is in my opinion, a pain in the arse this way around, because it kind of puts the active engagement of your skill set on the back seat by favour of
Yeah,
technology doing it for you.
absolutely. When it comes to passwords or anything like that, as
Oh,
soon as you get a new device or anything new, you're absolutely screwed if you haven't written anything down anywhere. But who does write passwords down anymore? Because it's already saved in your sort of like in the box, or your username is saved, and then you're like, oh, yeah.
I had this. I had this discussion argument with someone the other day. They were talking about, well, there's the iCloud keychain. I'm like, well, you still need a password to get into that, right?
Passwords need passwords.
What do you do if you got? Well, I use my face to do it. Okay, that's fine. Face ID doesn't work all the time.
I forgot my face. Oh no!
Right, and every point they come back with, I'm like, well, that doesn't work all the time, or that can't happen. Like the
Yeah.
kind of, I wasn't being aggressively calm. I was just calmly dismantling a point of view. And if you've ever seen anybody, rah, 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 person's really calm. It just makes them rah, 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 really calm, rah, really calm. Which is glorious to watch. It's glorious. Oh, Batman versus Sean Spencer. That might be interesting.
Ah.
But but on the research there,
Sure.
I would still give that to Sean. I would still give that to Sean for the same
Would he?
reasons.
Yeah. Because I suppose he's sort of being an interpretation directly of Sherlock. I suppose it would be the same fight, really. I suppose he's a modern day Sherlock.
Sean makes his connections up here again based on he's got ridiculous powers of observation and memory.
Yeah.
Right, so he makes the connections up here. What was that, mate?
Batman versus House.
I sense a series that we could do. We line up all of these people and have them face off against Sherlock Holmes and see who wins.
Can't imagine. Just a battle out.
Physically speaking, Batman's got it hands down.
Yeah. I suppose
Hands down.
if you're looking at and I think if you took them from their respective eras, plonked them in a room, and told them to go at it. Not in that way, but you'd be just sort of like, well, you get that baby that we're on about.
I'd be like, I got the first baby from Batman. It was me.
Oh, I think it would be a case of Sherlock probably bowing to the idea that he was going to lose, and probably set up something, or probably know immediately he wasn't going to win.
Yeah.
I reckon, and he'd just try and figure out some kind of way to bring comeuppance to Batman, even though knowing that his imminent failure was about to happen.
Yeah.
He's that kind of smart, knowing that he's just going to. Yeah,
100%. Sherlock acknowledged the requirement of a physical presence for matters of private detection, because you are, to paraphrase Alfred, the Michael Caine Alfred, you are spitting in the face of criminals.
Yeah.
Right. So there is the need. There is the need for that kind of element. Just Batman has Sherlock on that one. He has Sherlock on that one. He absolutely does.
I suppose Sherlock was smoking in the face of his criminals.
Well, if you look at the scene from the Adventure of the Speckled Band, when Grimsby Roylott comes in, this kind of angry man, keeper of exotic animals, and aggressively shakes his fist at the detective, and then rather than just punch him in the face, chooses to bend like a fire poker, bend it, and throws it down, says, "Don't mess with me, me bucko," and then walks away. Like, so Sherlock, like, it kind of puts his cigarette in his mouth, like kind of John McClane style, that way, picks up the poker, and then just goes, "Yep," and then puts it back. Oh, but we've got actual comic book knowledge being dropped in the chat. Badre Borley. I'm sorry if I'm butchering the name, but Badre Borley. At one point, there we go. Let me give the backtrack. Superman is a better detective than people give him credit for. At one point, Clark Kent was a member of the Mystery Analysts of Gotham City, and they were a group of dedicated mystery solvers from Gotham City who decided to meet regularly to solve mysterious crimes. Boom! That makes the connection that we were saying earlier about Superman being like Mycroft more likely.
For some reason, I don't know why we haven't actually made this comparison sooner in terms of Sherlock and Superman, because obviously Clark Kent was sort of kind of like a detective working for the Daily Planet.
Daily Bugle. Daily Planet. Bugle was Marvel. Sorry.
Yeah, Bugle as well. But Daily Planet, he had to go and find the truth. He had to go out and about and hunt down stories, and then obviously use his powers if he had to be. Rather than technology, he actually went to the area to solve these crimes or figure out what was going on. You never really think about that. You never think about Clark Kent. You think just about Superman.
Absolutely.
Kal-El rather than the human.
Absolutely. Yeah. So if you were, I asked you at the start, has your opinion changed? Sherlock or Batman? Who's the better detective? If you had to. If
I had to change.
No, if you had to pick.
Oh, if I had to pick, it'd be Sherlock. Sherlock, of course.
Yeah.
Best detective by far, really. Like you say, arguably, mainly because, as you say, he relied on this more than anything, which is the most important tool when it becomes to detective work. How he's trained, how to train right, and how you apply that training. But in the same kind of framing, you could put that on Batman, but Batman being who he is and his motivations are very different from Sherlock, and Sherlock's motivations are more geared to detective work for the sheer passion and joy of it, rather than Batman is sort of driven by.
He has, to be fair to Batsy, he has a lot of other shit going on.
Yeah, that's it. He's swayed rather than impassioned and
Yeah.
sort of gets a thrill from it. He's just sort of more gets a kind of satisfaction of avenging his parents.
I like that you initially put the fist up that way because that was very English. Why, Yoda? Oh, you cheeky rascal, Batsy, you cheeky rascal. And to finish the debate out with words from the man himself.
Every problem is absurdly simple when it is explained to you. Pum, pum, pum.
Oh, we're gonna have to re-edit this and have the picture frame suddenly just talk, turn around and phases all. Bum, 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 bum. Oh, God.
Well, there are a couple of services where you can make pictures talk. You can animate them and provide voices.
Like a kind of deep fake sort of thing, like a filter.
Yeah, yeah. So let's just have a look at a couple of these comments just before we wind it in. Where are we? Sherlock was at least trained fighting in original stories with Boritsu. Also, Robert Downey Sherlock. Absolutely, the Boritsu was in the original stories, including the single stick as well, and the occasional bare knuckle boxing. I don't really connect to the RDJ films as much, just because there's more of the focus on the action rather than the Sherlockian stuff.
Very Hollywood.
Yeah. Not that they aren't awesome films, and I would be very excited to see a third one. Just don't let Guy Ritchie direct it. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. We've got the actual quote from. What was that, mate?
I was just saying, although I do want him to finish it as a trilogy.
Yeah. We'll give him the trilogy. We'll give him the trilogy. Yeah. Just no more Enola Holmes. Just none of them.
Yeah.
None of them. So we've got the actual Jeremy Brett quote as he bends out the iron poker from the Adventure of the Speckled Band. I'm not so stocky myself. Sherlock was a lot stronger than he looks. He certainly was. Badri Bowley. I think the early seasons of the George Reeves Superman show really captures that aspect. So I'm presuming that would be in connection to what we were talking about earlier with the focus on Supes as the kind of investigative reporter side of things. Here we go. The Guy Ritchie film basically exposed a lot of casuals to the idea that Sherlock is a good fighter. Yeah, I love the notion of casuals as well. And as the Bengali sleuth Pradosh Mitta used to call his weapon of choice, Mogo Jastro, translated as the weapon of the mind. I'm sorry if I butchered that. If it was supposed to be in Bengali and it was pronounced a particular way, I don't know. I don't speak Bengali, so there it is. I have no idea. Couldn't tell you. Yes, so there we go. That, for us at least, is debate settled. Sherlock wins by force of, I wouldn't be knockout. I think he'd win on points.
Sherlock took him out with his Mogo Jastro.
Yeah, he took him out with that. Yeah, took him out with that. So yeah, with that in mind, guys, we're going to love you and leave you. I've got an announcement to make to you next week in terms of a training facility that's online that I'm building. That's why I've been quite quiet, socially speaking, as well for some time. I'm building something, and to quote Kevin Costner, to paraphrase Kevin Costner, I'm hoping that if I build it, you'll all be able to come and visit the website.
Oh no!
Give up. You give up.
Look away, Jeremy.
I'm so sorry, Jeremy. Sorry.
That's not your Astro.
Right, guys.
Oh, really?
Take care. We'll see you next week. All the best. Bye.